Hi, everyone. So at the beginning of class, I would give students this link to the Jamboard, and then I would ask each group to make a copy of it. So all of their groups have a separate copy of this Jamboard. At the beginning, I would also tell them to read through these statements so that they clearly understand what the objectives are for this lesson. So the first one is we will work together in groups to investigate some of the relationships between polygons and their angle measures. So that is tied to the state standard for that. And then the I will statement is I will solidify my understanding of these relationships by describing them in my own words or using mathematical expressions. And that's tied to the math practice standards where students have to create arguments and then critique the reasoning of others. And so through the lesson, they're going to be describing these relationships, which are their conjectures or their arguments, so to speak, and then kind of refining their responses based off of the responses of other students, their other group members. So they choose their group members, their colors, so that I can see their different contributions. And then they also go to the GeoGebra applet. And so that brings you here. So when you use this slider, you can see how the angles of the triangle all come together to lay on a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So right from the beginning, they investigate that the angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. In the past, I've just told them that information, and so they didn't investigate anything on their own. It was like information coming from me. So with this applet, they're able to investigate that on their own. And then you see the exterior angles all coming together as like a circle, which is 360 degrees. So again, they're using this applet to make those connections so that I don't just tell them. So they're using that information to fill in this table. And so they start with the triangle, then they move on to the rectangle and so on. And then when it gets to the end, the last column, that's when it gets generalized. And so this is where students will either struggle, and so maybe they won't write anything and they'll just kind of wait till they see what their partners have written, or they'll just explain it in words. Or some of the students that really know how to make those connections using an expression will write an expression for this. And then, wherever the students are at, we're going to bring them to a place where they can write it as an expression after we go through the rest of the activity. And so this is just saying that students will use sticky notes for the next few slides. And so here, my question is, how would you find the sum of the interior angles? So after you filled out the table and you noticed those patterns, explain to me how you would do that. And so again, some students will just write it out like, oh, I multiplied it by 2 less than the number of sides. Or a student will actually write like 180 times n minus 2. And then there's going to be anything in between, right? Some students will have kind of a mixture of those. Same thing for the next one. Explain how you would find the measure of one interior angle of a regular polygon. And then, so they're going to say, oh, I'm going to take the sum, and then I'm going to divide it by the number of sides that there are. And then the last one is, how would you find the measure of one exterior angle of a regular polygon? And that is taking the 360, like all of those exterior angles, and dividing it by the number of sides. Then here, after they have those sticky notes, I'm going to tell the group members to go back, read through all those sticky notes, and then come up with your final response. And be ready to present, because I might call on your group. And so they're really taking that time to critique and look at the reasoning of their partners, of their peers, and put it together so that it makes sense, so that it's a clear statement on this is how you find the sum, this is how you find one, this is how you find one exterior. And then this is just to show that the table was from Sistry. It's content that I found from Teachers Pay Teachers. And that is the activity. So I think